Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today we're going to be talking about the new sniper changes that are being tested in CTE right now and should hopefully be coming to the main game in a short period of time. Now I am using some of the cool new sniper rifles. I've showed them off in previous videos, but this is a suppressed 1903, which is pretty darn cool. It looks cool with this white skin in the snow environment, but some of the big sniper changes are actually quite interesting. In fact, you saw right there, there's a little bit of a rainbow scope glint. And you might be thinking, is that just a new scope glint effect? Well, not only is it a new effect, but it only applies the rainbow glint when you're in that sniper sweet spot range. So if you see a guy with the rainbow effect on, you might want to think about either taking cover or making sure you kill them very quickly, because if they land a body shot on you, you're going down in one shot. This is a pretty interesting addition to the game. I kind of like the rainbow scope glint effect, as it tells you if you're in the sweet spot. It gives you more strategic information, more intel on the enemy sniper. In addition to that, you might also notice here that my scope is blurring out at ranges that are not sweet spot ranges for me. This is a new effect added to the game that allows snipers to tell when their target is in the sweet spot range, as they will be in focus, and out of focus targets will not be in the sweet spot range. Now DICE is testing this out, and you have the option to turn this effect off. This, in a way, I think is a good concept for telegraphing information to newbie players about the sweet spot mechanic. Personally, I won't be using it because it blurs out targets too much at distances that are not sweet spot distances, in which you'll need to get headshots to one-shot kill them. The blur effect is enough, in my opinion, to affect my accuracy, especially my headshot accuracy at extreme distances, and I'm quite used to the sweet spots of the sniper rifles that I use, that I approximately know when a target is going to be in sweet spot range. That being said, knowing when my target is or is not in a sweet spot range isn't really going to affect my shooting style too much. Often I'll aim for body shots when a target is on the move and just try and land two of them. If a target is standing still, I'll usually go for a headshot regardless. There is, of course, the theoretical scenario in which I see a stationary target at range and decide to go for the body shot because I see that they're in sweet spot range. The reason why this is actually not a beneficial strategy is because if you go for a body shot and they're holding up a rifle, maybe looking at you, and your shot is blocked by their hand or forearm, something like that, it'll give you an arm damage multiplier in which you will not get the one-shot kill. So it's, in fact, I think, a more consistent strategy to go for the headshot if your target is stationary, regardless of sweet spot distance. So the sweet spot information for me is not really that useful in general. It could be a good tool for teaching novice players on how to get used to it, but if they're unaware that you can turn off the sweet spot blurriness effect in the options menu, in the video setting menu, then this could be a bad thing as well. They might not notice that you can actually get a much more clear picture if you turn off that effect. So just something to think about in the long run. Now DICE has also built in the mechanic where if you hold your breath, it'll actually alleviate a lot of the blurry effect and you can see more clearly. The problem with this is that generally when I'm holding my breath, I'm standing still. In a lot of top tier sniper versus sniper gameplay, or just sniping in general, you have to take your shots incredibly fast and stay on the move. So you only have the option to stand still for a split second. Standing still and holding breath every single time is just one more mechanic that you might need to add to the game. I generally don't hold my breath all that much. I take my shots very quickly and then keep moving. And so it's just a mechanic that I don't know if I would integrate to my gameplay that much. I think I would much rather prefer just turning off the depth of field mechanic, as the information it's providing me is something that I'm not really going to use that much. And I think at its heart, that's the problem with the sweet spot mechanic, and DICE is clearly trying to remedy the sweet spot mechanic, which is just random one-shot kills that most players are unaware that they're about to get. And they're trying to say, okay, look, we're going to give you the information as to when you're going to get a sweet spot kill or when somebody's at your sweet spot range, so you can alter your shot style or what you're aiming for. But my argument is that it's not really going to alter my shot style regardless, so I don't need the blurry vision to tell me. I don't need to blur out my scope at range. I'd rather just have a clear picture all the way through. Now, in addition to adding the new rainbow scope glint at the sweet spot ranges, DICE is also adding in scope glint on marksman rifles, and basically any rifle I believe that has a sweet spot mechanic. If it doesn't have the sweet spot mechanic like the M95, I don't think it's going to have scope glint. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works right now. So basically, if you're a big fan of the SMLE, which I am, one of the major benefits of using that rifle is that it doesn't have scope glint because it uses a lesser powerful optic. Well, now when the new patch releases, assuming DICE doesn't change it, it's going to have that scope glint. And this is an interesting change. It certainly is a nerf to the scout class. There's no question about it. Is it an appropriate nerf? I think so. And I say that coming from somebody who really enjoys playing the scout class. Not having that scope glint as the enemy player can be really annoying. And now you'll get a scope glint with the SMLE, which is one of the most popular sniper rifles out there. And you'll get that rainbow effect if you're in their sweet spot. So it should allow you to sort of modify your gameplay and approach a target slightly differently based on the information you have from them now. It'll also give a much bigger reason to use the iron sight sniper rifles because you can avoid the scope glint, or maybe the M95 if that one doesn't have scope glint. So I think it's a decent balancing factor, as for the most part, there's just two sniper rifles that I would use in general. I would use the SMLE marksman, and then I would use the Gewehr 98 for longer range shooting. And I didn't really need too much else in the world of sniper rifles. Those kind of handled the different ranges that I would fight at, and I got used to using those rifles, the muzzle velocity, all that stuff, so I didn't need to mix it up too much. Now I might be thinking about messing around with an iron sight sniper rifle a little bit in closer quarter combat if I really don't want to deal with the scope glint mechanic. Now, the fact that DICE is making this change so late in Battlefield 1's history is pretty interesting. I mean, this is something that, veteran players will have to get used to. Novice players coming into the game may benefit a little bit from the additional information, provided that it is properly explained or people watch YouTube videos explaining it to them. But I have a feeling that they're going to be testing these mechanics out because they'll probably be translating them over into the next Battlefield game, especially if the next Battlefield game is a World War II themed Battlefield game. I imagine they're going to bring the sweet spot mechanic back. They recognize that there are issues with the sweet spot mechanic in that most players don't understand how it works or when it's working, and so they just randomly get one-shot kills and don't really understand why. And so it's important to try and give them the information so they can alternate their gameplay based on it. I still think it's somewhat of a flawed system, and I do prefer the previous game's sniper mechanics in that you had to have a little bit more skill to do as well with the sniper class, and also it was more consistent. You didn't have the arm shot multipliers in Battlefield 4, which meant in close quarters you could get a guaranteed body shot, switch to your sidearm, and get a one-shot takedown after that. So you had a good, consistent way of killing enemies in close quarters that still required a lot of skill and for you to basically have the intel and upper hand in information, which you no longer get in Battlefield 1. You can body shot somebody in close quarters, it'll get blocked by an arm, and then you might need 2 or even 3 shots with your sidearm to finish them off. And so it's become a very inconsistent game for the aggressive recon, which is something I don't like. So I had no problem with the old school mechanics of sniping in Battlefield 4 games, or Battlefield 3 for that matter, but DICE is clearly trying to use more tools to balance out the scout class, and it is getting more complicated. The ways to balance out this class are getting significantly more complicated, possibly unnecessarily more complicated, but I have a feeling they're just going to kind of go with it and try and continue working with the sweet spot mechanic into the next Battlefield game. Now, I had an alternative idea other than using the blurring mechanic, which I think comes with too many negatives rather than positives to be useful, at least for me. Instead, they could set up a mechanic where maybe if the scout class spotted an enemy, or there was just a spotted enemy that you're looking at, that spot diamond that is normally red could turn to maybe more of an orange or a yellow color, some sort of color indicator letting you know that target was at sweet spot range. This way you wouldn't have to mess around with the blurring effect, which admittedly looks cool but is not beneficial to the gameplay, and you could just have a small UI element that helped you indicate sweet spot distances. That's just an alternative idea. I'm sure there's a bunch of different mechanics that could be implemented to help with this, but in general, general, it's something good to know and think about, especially if it's coming in the next Battlefield 1 patch. You can test out these mechanics on Battlefield 1 CTE right now. As always, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.